I've been seeing a lot of posts talking about Lena Khan's message. One of them that is of note to me is looking at Brap's podcast Twitter account actually say this, that Lena Khan warned of consolidation, especially the Activision Blizzard, deal, how it will hurt consumers and developers. And he says she was right. But Brap, you're lambasting the Xbox pundits for having championed that deal. You can't call me an Xbox guy, like an Xbox fanboy. However, yes, the Xbox proposition is closer to PC, so I'm trying to rail all these guys into PC. However, I have to point out that your categorization of the issue is actually missing context, because King David of the Iron Lords podcast pointed out this and said, what about others who didn't buy Activision Blizzard King? Now, this is a very valid question a lot of people are asking, but I think there's even much more. Shout out to Nerd Propellant, who actually went ahead and countered your claim where you said that Khan wasn't wrong. And this is typical of many M&As. You said increased pricing, layoffs as a result of consolidation. Harvard Business has a great study on this, and it's worth the read. But before we go to Harvard Business, Nerd Propellant said that Khan's entire claim was that Xbox will withhold Call of Duty from PlayStation. And you said, while this was one of many, there were other concerns that were raised as well. Layoffs, price increases, etc. So Nerd Propellant broke it down and put the link over here. And I went and I actually looked up the link, and I looked at exactly what it is that you are pointing towards. Towards the end of this particular case document, page 17 on the PDF, right? It says anti-competitive effects, which is section 96 all the way through 118 or 119. It says the proposed acquisition is reasonably likely to substantially lessen competition to tend or create a monopoly in the relevant markets by creating a combined firm with the ability and increased incentive to withhold Activision's valuable gaming content from or degrade Activision's content for Microsoft's rivals. Interesting. So they break it down. As the owner of Activision's gaming content, Microsoft will have the ability to disadvantage rivals by withholding or degrading Activision content in the relevant markets. They come ahead and they give a few reasons why they think so. Cloud gaming subscription, which Microsoft ceded pretty much its sales to another company. Activision is a leader. Okay, then they break it down. AAA content is substantially important for the input of products in relevant markets. And then they come here again and said, in B, as the owner of the Activision content, Microsoft would have the ability to withhold Activision's content from or degrade Activision's content on rival consoles and subscription services. Lena Khan, I don't understand what she's saying. What is she talking about? Let's keep scrolling. You'll see something that she's trying to allude to. It says the proposed acquisition would increase Microsoft's incentive to disadvantage rivals by withholding or degrading Activision content in the relevant markets. They haven't done so. In fact, they're putting the thing everywhere. It's on Game Pass, Battle.net, Steam, PlayStation, Xbox app on PC. If you have a calculator that can run Call of Duty, I guarantee you they'd put it on there, because now it's there to make money. But what's even ironic as I'm reading through this is I cannot, count, right, the plethora of PlayStation fanboys that kept yelling that Xbox didn't have exclusives and were laughing at Xbox when they just went through a dragging after having paid $69 billion that they were likely going to withhold content from other platforms. Their multi-platform approach, when people say it's probably to avoid any more, attention from regulators, I can see where they're making sense. But let's keep reading, right? When you go on, let's just read a little bit of this. It says, if permitted to take control of Activision, Microsoft will have an incentive to disadvantage rivals by withholding or degrading Activision content. Gaming is a growing and now lucrative platform, and it will fully understand the competitive power of owning Activision's leading gaming content would yield. Prior to proposed acquisition, Activision sought to maximize profits from sales of its video game titles. The proposed acquisition would change Activision's incentives because Microsoft stands to gain significant profits from additional gamers purchasing Xbox consoles or Xbox Game Pass. Lena Khan's case was based on straight activism. What kind of duh is this one that we're seeing here? Of course, gamers are going to want to have an incentive to go buy Xboxes. That's exactly why. They wanted to grow their business. PlayStation was already pretty much getting benefits, and Xbox got a degraded version of this game because even after the acquisition, there was still things like free weekend XP that was exclusive to PlayStation that was not on Xbox. Xbox owned a game that PlayStation had exclusive rights to some of the content that was in it. That's how shameful this FTC trial was, that it never examined how bad all that was. And Microsoft didn't help them. Microsoft didn't correct them. They just sat there like the quiet lamb and the third place that everybody had put them in, knowing that they're literally a gigantor, and just bought the freaking company after she basically went ahead and fumbled the bag. This one says Microsoft's statements and past actions indicate it will likely act on its incentives to disadvantage rivals by withholding or degrading Activision content. What the flip are these people talking about? What's weird is Microsoft had been posting and publishing its games on Steam all this while. They didn't even tell the FTC anything. They just let the FTC just talk. They said their past conduct is telling despite statements of Microsoft to European regulators disavowing the incentive to make ZeniMax content exclusive post-close after the EC declared transaction. Well, they did that with Starfield, but again, it's on Steam, so get out of here. And then finally, this is the one that y'all are talking about. Withholding Activision's content from or degrading Activision's content on Microsoft's rival products will harm competition and consumers in the relevant markets. Now, the crazy thing is, someone said to you on your timeline that, and this is user Psycho Gamer, they said she wasn't right. The price of Call of Duty is still on par with other AAA games and is still available on PlayStation. Her core argument is based on an ideology, not business logic or gamer focused. If she really cared about gamers, she would be going after the Saudis for privatization of EA. Then you said, saying that Lina Khan was wrong because COD is still $70 and PlayStation is missing, and on PlayStation is missing the forest for the trees. But Brap, how are you missing the forest for the trees when you're literally citing this woman's own law, her legal argument that she put out there, that giving these guys Activision would give them the power to disadvantage their competitors by withholding content. She also said that the fact that they have the ability to degrade Activision content on Microsoft's rival products, that's what she hinged this competition, this freaking consumer, harming consumers on. She didn't hinge it on, blah, 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 blah. No, it says withholding content from or degrading content on Microsoft rival products is likely to substantially lessen competition in the relevant markets. They didn't do that. So claim number 118 is basically moot. 119, this lessening of competition will result in harm to consumers, including reduced consumer choice and reduced product quality, higher prices, and less motivation. They didn't do that. So point number 119 is also moot. Y'all need to really realize that in this particular conversation, we got to go back and we need to be honest with ourselves. And I got to ask you guys, why do you guys suddenly think that Microsoft is consolidating the business now that they've raised the price of Game Pass to $30? When they were about to acquire Activision Blizzard King, I remember many people said monopoly, but then after they acquired them, they said, it's not really going to make a big deal. And now that they've increased the price, it makes a big deal. Y'all are trying to go ahead and mischaracterize Lina Khan's argument. Well, she hasn't done herself any favors because her argument actually did somehow leave out that little bit of context, right? So if we go back and we read her tweet, and we read her case, she has now basically purposefully left out a good piece of the whole thing. And this is the crazy thing that's how you know, or at least that's how you suspect, that somewhere, somehow, there was more activism than actually trying to make a case in that whole FTC sham and a waste of taxpayer dollars. Simple. Is the news not over here saying, look at this. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. In the exact same vein, Bloomberg is writing an article saying that Xbox is losing, or at least sacrificed $300 million of possible sales to put that game on Game Pass. Isn't it crazy? Bro, Xbox, at this point, man, when Xbox dominates the gaming industry, this fear mongering, and it finally, comes true because they're going to speak it into existence, I will not be surprised anymore. Peace out.